No one who has ever seen a B-2 bomber, whether on the ground or in the air, can ever forget it. The subsonic aircraft, officially known as Northrop B-2 Spirit, is best known for its distinctive shape, a flying wing designed to elude enemy radar and deliver conventional or even nuclear weapons deep into enemy territory. Thus, this stealth bomber with a bat-like shape can strike terror anytime it appears in the sky, that is, if you can even spot it. But the US is retiring its B-2 bomber fleet, which has been at the core of its air force since the 1990s. As the new B-21 Raider, as their flagship bomber, is introduced, the 19 B-2s still in service will be phased out over the next 10 years, concluding in the 2030s. The B-2's place in history is firmly established, but its story may not be over. In fact, an entirely new chapter could just be beginning, thanks to American generosity. Let's explain. The United States and Australia have a strong military relationship that has been forged over a century of partnership in combat. The two countries have fought side by side in every single significant conflict since World War I, from the trenches of the Western Front in World War I and the pivotal naval battles of World War II in the Pacific, to the frozen landscapes of Korea, the jungles of Vietnam, and the deserts of the Middle East in the Gulf Wars and campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq. This partnership is often called mateship, from the Australian use of the term mate for a friend. The two countries, with their shared language, seem natural partners as they also share democratic values and common interests. A century of cooperation has also resulted in a remarkable degree of interoperability between their armed forces. Military cooperation between the two nations is officially underpinned by the 1951 Australia, New Zealand, and United States Security Treaty, called ANZUS for short. Beyond this treaty, the two countries also engage in significant practical cooperation. For example, the 2014 US-Australia Force Posture Agreement established annual rotations of US Marines to Australia's Darwin base and enhanced rotations of US Air Force aircraft to Australia, deepening integration and readiness. But the biggest exercise not only involves the US and Australia, but 17 other nations as well. Exercise Talisman Sabre is a biennial, large-scale military exercise involving tens of thousands of personnel from both countries and other international partners including Canada, Fiji, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, Republic of Korea, Singapore, Thailand, Tonga, and the United Kingdom. These exercises demonstrate and support interoperability, ensuring that these allied defense forces can seamlessly work together across a wide array of potential security concerns. These treaties and integration, plus Australia's geographic position, make it an indispensable US ally in the Indo-Pacific. Located at the crossroads between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, Australia's strategic geography provides the United States with crucial leverage in the region. While Australian defense strategy is to be increasingly self-reliant in its immediate neighborhood, it's significantly strengthened by privileged access to US intelligence, defense science, weaponry, and military logistics support. Australia prioritizes its region, where it builds common ground with other countries, especially smaller Pacific Island nations, and advocates for a rules-based international order. While it has traditionally focused on the Pacific in recent years, Australia has embraced an active policy of looking west to the Indian Ocean, especially considering the increasing threat from China in the north. Australia has been forging stronger relations with both India and Indonesia through high-level dialogues and defense cooperation. Initiatives like Indo-Pacific Endeavour, an annual Australian Defence Force activity, now specifically include engagement with countries across the Northeast Indian Ocean, such as Bangladesh, the Maldives, and Sri Lanka. This involves military cooperation, joint training, and capacity-building efforts, such as gifting patrol boats to the Maldives and providing surveillance equipment to Sri Lanka. Historically, most major Australian defence bases were concentrated in the southeast of the country, where the majority of Australia's population is located. The Look West strategy involves significant shifts in the positioning. The Australian Defence Force has been bolstering facilities in Australia's Indian Ocean territories, such as upgrading the airstrip on West Island in the Cocos Islands to support P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft. The expansion of the naval base HMAS Stirling on Garden Island near the city of Perth in Western Australia is another critical component. This base will host the Submarine Rotational Force West under AUKUS from 2027 and Australia's future nuclear-powered submarines, as well as its expanding service combatant fleet. This positions Western Australia as a key projection hub for Australia and its allies into the Indian Ocean. The Royal Australian Air Force, or RAAF, is a small but modern and capable fighting force, operating a diverse fleet of advanced aircraft. Its combat aircraft inventory includes 72 Lockheed Martin F-35A Lightning II stealth multi-role fighters and 24 Boeing FA-18F Super Hornet strike fighter aircraft. For airborne early warning and control and electronic warfare, the RAAF employs 6 Boeing E-7A wedge-tail aircraft and 12 Boeing EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft. Maritime patrol and anti-submarine warfare are handled by 12 Boeing P-8A Poseidon aircraft, with more on order. The RAAF also operates various transport, tanker, and training aircraft, including C-17 Globemasters, C-130J Hercules, and Airbus KC-30A multi-role tanker transports. But what the Australian Air Force currently lacks is a dedicated, long-range, strategic strike platform capable of projecting power deep into contested zones, which is a gap that could be filled by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. B-2 stealth bombers are designed to deliver conventional and nuclear weapons deep into heavily defended enemy airspace without being detected. The aircraft are made by Northrop Grumman Corporation, with partners including Boeing, Hughes Radar Systems Group, General Electric Aircraft Engine Group, and Vought Aircraft Industries. The bombers fly with 2 crew members, with the pilot on the left and the mission commander on the right, which is a much smaller crew than older bombers. With a 172-foot wingspan and measuring 69 feet in length, the B-2 has a distinctive flying wing design with no vertical stabilizers or distinct fuselage. This minimizes the craft's radar cross-section by deflecting radar energy. It's largely constructed from carbon fiber reinforced composite materials and coated with specialized radar absorbent materials. It weighs 160,000 pounds and more than twice that at takeoff, using 17,300 pounds of thrust per engine. Part of its stealth technology is that it does not use afterburners, which would produce a large infrared signature and compromise its stealth. This limits its speed to high subsonic with a top speed of approximately 628 miles per hour, but extends its range to around 6,000 nautical miles or 10,000 miles with 1 air refueling. The B-2 carries 40,000 pounds of munitions in 2 internal weapons bays, which contributes to its stealth profile. Compatible nuclear weapons include B-61 tactical nuclear bombs and B-83 strategic nuclear bombs. B-2 fighters in Australian hands could represent a major deterrent for China, which has taken an increasingly aggressive posture in the Indo-Pacific. In the South China Sea, Chinese Coast Guard vessels have engaged in grey zone tactics, ramming and firing water cannons at Filipino ships in disputed waters. These incidents have taken place well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, demonstrating China's growing willingness to escalate tensions as part of its territorial claims. Australia also has interests in the South China Sea, with around 2/3 of its seaborne trade passing through it. More alarmingly, in February 2025, the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy Task Group 107 conducted unannounced live-fire exercises in the Tasman Sea, which separates Australia and New Zealand, directly under the flight path of a busy air route. This naval task group, which includes a Type 055 stealth guided missile destroyer, a Type 054A guided missile frigate, and a replenishment ship, traversed along Australia's eastern coast for 10 days before initiating the exercises. This display of blue water capability, far from China's shores, was widely interpreted as a shot across the bow. It was meant to send a clear signal that China's military forces could potentially cut off vital air and sea links to Australia and New Zealand at any time. Earlier that same month, the Chinese fighter pilot released flares near an Australian maritime patrol aircraft over the South China Sea, an act Australia labelled unsafe and unprofessional. These actions are part of a broader pattern of Beijing's efforts to normalise its military presence throughout the Pacific and challenge the existing strategic order. But China is not only trying to show an iron fist, but a velvet glove as well. China has been making overtures to Pacific Island nations, often characterized by a mix of diplomatic engagement, economic incentives, and subtle security arrangements. This is seen by Australia and its allies as a deliberate strategy to undermine their long-standing relationships and reshape the regional order in Beijing's favor. In recent years, China has positioned itself as a major provider of infrastructure funding for projects such as roads and ports as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. Some agreements include provisions for critical mineral rights, such as deep-sea mining in the Cook Islands, or partnerships on fisheries and ports, which often carry a dual civil and military use component, suggesting that China is actively trying to expand its naval access. They have been emboldened by traditional Western partners like the US and New Zealand, reducing their funding to these areas. The Solomon Islands Security Pact of 2022 was a watershed moment. The leaked draft and subsequent signed security agreement between China and the Solomon Islands caused significant alarm in Canberra and Washington. The pact allows for Chinese police, armed police, military personnel, and other law enforcement forces to operate in the islands under certain circumstances. It also provides for Chinese naval assets to make port visits for logistical support. This has raised fears of a potential Chinese military base in Australia's immediate neighborhood, fundamentally altering the strategic balance. Beyond the Solomon Islands, China has increased its police training programs and provided equipment to Vanuatu, Kiribati, Samoa, and Fiji. Actions like this saw Kiribati and the Solomon Islands switch diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to Beijing in 2019, paving the way for closer economic and security ties with mainland China. These approaches underscore the urgent need for Australia and its allies to enhance their deterrence capabilities and collective responses in the region. And a fleet of B-2s operating from a base in northern Australia would represent a strategic deterrence of unprecedented strength. From Australia, the B-2 with its stealth capabilities can reach virtually any target in the Indo-Pacific within hours. This threat would force Beijing to contend with potential multiple axes of attack, not only from US bases to its north and east, but also from Australian bases in the south. This would make aggressive action significantly riskier and more complex for China. It would also compel China to divert substantial air and missile defenses to its southern and southeastern flanks, diluting its ability to concentrate forces elsewhere. This approach would align perfectly with Australia's 2024 National Defence Strategy, which explicitly calls for enhanced long-range strike capabilities. Being able to place this kind of pressure on China is critical as the Taiwan issue continues. Concerns are mounting among US and allied officials that China is preparing for a military invasion of Taiwan. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has publicly warned that China is an imminent threat and that deterring Beijing is the Pentagon's top regional priority, citing China's historic military buildup and active rehearsals for a Taiwan invasion. While the United States officially adheres to a One China policy and does not diplomatically recognize Taiwan, it maintains a robust unofficial relationship. The US has increasingly ramped up its military presence in the South China Sea, emphasizing a peace through strength strategy, aimed at deterring aggression while not seeking war or regime change. Nevertheless, Chinese military action against Taiwan would undoubtedly trigger a significant and likely forceful response from the United States and its allies, potentially drawing the region into a major conflict. In addition to its strategic importance, transferring the B-2 fleet could also offer potential financial benefits for both the US and Australia. Each bomber originally cost over $2 billion to develop and build, a significant investment to send to the boneyard at Davis Monthan Air Force Base, where the US would have to bear the cost of decommissioning. Transferring these assets to an ally like Australia, even free of charge, would be a more cost-effective option for the US. But free isn't always free. For Australia, acquiring the B-2s even without charge would be expensive. Each B-2 bomber costs approximately $40 million annually to maintain, a significant commitment for any air force. This figure covers the highly specialized upkeep required for the B-2's unique stealth coatings and complex systems. Training RAAF pilots and ground crews for the B-2s would also be a considerable undertaking, requiring extensive and highly specialized programs. Additionally, the cost of training pilots for a highly complex strategic stealth bomber like the B-2 would be significant as well. However, this investment would not only enable Australia to operate the B-2 fleet, but also provide invaluable lessons and skills that will be critical for future next-generation strike capabilities. The existing deep interoperability and joint training exercises between the US and Australian air forces would help facilitate this transition. The regular conduct of joint air operations during these exercises means that RAAF and USAF personnel are already accustomed to working together, sharing procedures and integrating their air assets. Joint training scenarios could be developed to specifically prepare Australian air crews for B-2 operations, leveraging the US Air Force's extensive experience with the platform. The integration of B-2 stealth bombers into Australia's defense capabilities would undoubtedly force a significant shift in China's defense strategy. It would compel Beijing to redirect air and missile defenses to cover its southern and southeastern flanks, which are currently less exposed to deep strike threats from stealth assets. This reallocation of resources would inherently dilute China's ability to concentrate forces and advance defensive systems in other areas of strategic importance, such as the Taiwan Strait or the South China Sea. Furthermore, the presence of a stealth bomber fleet in Australia would complicate China's long-term military planning and force it to invest even more heavily in advanced counter-stealth technologies and robust early warning systems across a wider geographic area. The recent reports of China developing flying-wing stealth aircraft, potentially incorporating stolen B-2 secrets, underscore Beijing's awareness of the strategic advantage conferred by stealth technology and its determination to counter it. The operational deployment of B-2s by Australia would accelerate this arms race, but crucially, it would do so with a proven, battle-tested platform already in the hands of a key US ally. Beyond the immediate strategic impact, transferring the B-2s to Australia would also serve as a crucial stepping stone for the RAAF's future strategic air power aspirations, particularly its long-term interest in the B-21 Raider. The B-21 Raider is the US Air Force's next-generation stealth bomber, currently in production and slated to gradually replace the B-2 fleet by 2040. Australian defence experts and think tanks have already identified the B-21 Raider as a potential long-term solution for Australia's strategic strike requirements, offering a faster and more flexible option compared to the nuclear submarines envisioned under the AUKUS agreement. Reports suggest that Australia could seek access to the B-21 and propose collaboration with the United States, including the potential for operating B-21s on rotation from Australian military facilities. By gifting the B-2 fleet to Australia, the US would facilitate an invaluable learning curve for the RAAF. Operating and maintaining the highly complex B-2s will provide Australian Air Force personnel with first-hand experience in managing and deploying advanced stealth platforms, developing the necessary doctrine, logistics, and human capital for such capabilities. This experience would be directly transferable to the B-21 Raider, ensuring that the RAAF is well prepared to integrate and effectively operate the next-generation bomber when it becomes available in the 2040 timeframe. In essence, the B-2s would serve as an effective interim measure, allowing Australia to build foundational expertise and accelerate its journey towards acquiring the B-21s, further cementing its role as a key player in Indo-Pacific security. While there are compelling reasons for the US to transfer its retiring B-2s to Australia, there are many good reasons why this move seems unlikely. The B-2 is one of the most secretive and technologically advanced aircraft ever built. Its stealth coatings, materials, and internal systems are highly classified. The US has never exported this level of sensitive technology, and safeguarding it, even from a close ally, will be an immense challenge requiring unprecedented levels of trust and security protocols. The B-2 is dual-capable, meaning it can deliver both conventional and nuclear weapons. Australia has a strong non-proliferation stance and would not want nuclear-capable aircraft. While theoretically the nuclear systems could be disabled, the inherent design and initial purpose would still pose political and technical complexities. This, combined with the cost of maintaining the aircraft and Australia's pre-existing commitment to invest in B-21s, means Australia is unlikely to embrace integrating the B-2s into its fleet. Plus, the US is unlikely to declassify the technology for sharing, even for a close and trusted ally such as Australia. While the US and Australia will certainly continue to work together to ensure the security of the Indo-Pacific region, that cooperation is likely to look very different. Thank you for watching, and for more insight into the B-2 bomber, watch our video on how this amazing piece of machinery looks in action.